We have some technical problems, so that was a very technical problem. So we sorry for the inconvenience. It was a technical problem. So bear with me as I set the camera back to where I'm standing. I'm so sorry. Just so sorry. It was a technical problem. So
The brand one well done yesterday. Yeah. What's not coming to more in the building? I'm telling you, to faster.
So can you speak your heart? Can you speak your I have so this also is okay. Yeah. So how is that? I want seven pairs. That's the first person. What's the name? That's great. So this is what I was also also so our brother yesterday, as I said, instruction is something that can take away gas. And you know how this so hey, come on, brother. How the hustle is like today?
Bad.
The hustle,
Bye.
yeah.
No buy.
No buy. Why no buy?
No money.
No money. So sell it to sell it, but cash nothing. How many are you asking?
And
Huh?
7 hours.
7 hours. How many for? 1,007. So 700. So my 1,000. So they after 5, after 4, 4 So maybe before 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, they also do for you. So you sell for yourself, you sell for your friends. Yeah? We sell for. You think we sell for? So our sister yourself. How about the hustle? So everyone today, you need a hustle left down. So how many fun you brought yourself? Yeah? What does it go now? Yeah? How many you yourself? Yeah? But what does it go now? You tell people that the hustle is far. Oh yeah. So sometimes on the Saturday, I'm not going to sell it. That's why you make 3,000 pounds. That's good. That's why you say we hustle. So we suffer. We suffer. So it's a matter of is that who? Is that? I'm not selling something. Yeah, so I also expect to be one customer can. What in the morning makes a powerful for the no money. Yes, whether the business you know, all of the 7 million. Customer not well, many. Then, control on the television, the way we need to, well, customers, they had customer not coming like before. So we say that so one customer, if you not go out, they will out, they will go. After that, come by again, it's another way. Because no Yeah, nothing. So, job to do it. The whole market boring. Not studying, not doing nothing. There's another people.
Now you talk about job. So why are you asking living so?
But the people have to get like if I go for me, it's giving. They get television error. They get so much television. They have been experienced. They look like what I'm doing. When I think about the farm outside, I'm there and there. On the street. Someone has went for that food and it's run ministry. That means society global. Society, yeah, society.
We get phone pack, we get phone protector. Anyhow, we need to. We get a charger, we get an original charger here for small money.
So why is that? So why is that?
What's the better one? I don't want to put it.
So sometimes
before last year, carry ourselves. My sister, I said, what's my name?
So talk about the video hustle. So what's about audience here? They are all set up. So we are here again talking about the video hustle.
Yeah,
So we are talking about video hustle. Yeah, so how do hustle is actually
thank you for life. Thank you for life.
That's one of the biggest things.
Yeah.
So how do hustle is that?
The also is all right.
All right.
All right.
So that means
Some people say the hustle is bad.
But if you have money, you also not always be positive story. You have to be back right now. You have to be back. You have to be. You have to be work on yourself.
So it's a what's everything?
Give that guardian.
Okay. So having been a photographer is so this is a hustle.
Sorry, I'm okay. There is original money matter.
So we are talking about video hustle here. So how the hustle is happening?
Well, the hustle actually is fine. Yeah, it's fine.
The hustle is
Well, then, thank you for that question. What the thing I have for the young people is that they have to be focused. Number one, focus. Because these days, the young people these days, their parents actually they don't have to help them, so they should help themselves. Nicely and make sure the customer
so what are the acts? How many years are this?
brother, now they can get me trouble.
Some the acts.
Yeah, I'm answering you. Same 2000. We pay to the hospital, don't you see? Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Original money matter. When you talk about photo branding, just the money matter. What I don't know it.
First, my name is Mark Johnson, and I'm a state vendors. We hosted, we told the government that the host is not really good. But yet, this year we see some value in others. I'm giving my neck, I'm a government. It is farm so back to back. But the way it used to be right now is not as it is now. As I'm speaking, we are on a paper. People that we should get for 25. But now we're scary funny. So the question is about the mic. Even like we're getting money. So right now we are on a paper and as a full go, you know, it takes to be on a paper. Besides that, there are other businesses around. They are complaining that we can speak much about them, but for us as a full go, we are on a paper complaining and we are asking those importers who are there to help us to bring in people because we are oppressing the international and you know as a program this what we trying so that we'll be able to get thank you for having me today.
We get all kinds of food back here today. The new food back there, why you think it all? We get it here today. They tell you that food back. We say here today for small money. All the deserve food back, why you think it all? We get it here today. We get it sensor food back. We get it regular food back. We get it agile food back. We get it We get our phone back every day to the first money. They protect us by the West. And we can protect us
So, hello, brother. Yeah. So, I don't hospital is bad for you today. Everything is fine. So, the hospital is full for you today. So, why others are complaining, others are snapping, or just that's yeah, that is number one. Other places, some people have it today, and why others are so,
Hello and welcome again to the roundtable. We are here again to continue our discussion on issues concerning the Constitution of the Republic of Liberia. And today we will be looking at Article 52. We want to say welcome to our viewers out there. We want to say welcome to our panelists. Hopefully we can have all of them on. We want to say thank you for joining us. Do us a favor, share the broadcast, and remain with us. And at the appropriate time, we will be opening our lines to allow our viewers to make their own contribution to this program. And we have relaying this program in Liberia. We have Liberty Radio, we have Abliji Radio, and Voice of Plebo, all the way in Maryland County. So I want to say welcome again to this program. And I believe we're going to have a wonderful, wonderful time. We are still waiting for one of our panelists, but nevertheless, we're going to start. I want to say thank you to our panelist, Anthony Charles, that is just joining us from the USA as well. And we are coming to you live from the USA, to be specific, Minnesota. And what I got a call on the line, and one of our panelists want to say something, but just bear with me. We will be right back. I will be right back. But in the meantime, I want to invite Anthony Charles to the microphone. Let me take this down.
Yeah.
You are welcome, sir.
Thank you, ma'am. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. We're wasting time. I just want you to give us your opening comments before we go into our discussion for today.
Who, me?
Yes, you, Anthony Charles. Yes, you. Your opening
my I didn't know this, but my name is Attorney Charles Sonwadi Joyan. I'm based in Washington D.C. and I practice law in Washington D.C. in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. I'm happy to be here. Patients asked me this morning to join this show, and I'm happy to be here. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We are glad also to have you on this program today. Justice Jane, you want to give your opening comments, please?
Well, thank you for having me, and I'm happy to be part of this. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Today we will be discussing this Article 52. I was discussing with one of my friends as it concerned this article, and the person told me, Patience, I don't think we need to look at this article. I don't think there's a reason for us to change anything in this article. So my first question here today, and I want to start with Anthony Charles. Do you think Article 52, we are looking at A, B, and C. Do you think there's a need for reform of any of these, the provision in this article?
Well, let me start by saying this. Constitutions are written for people, okay? And constitutional changes come about as a result of the Constitutional Convention, amongst other things. You can amend the Constitution, you can have a legislative act that can address issues with your Constitution. I would rather proceed in that direction as opposed to having a constitutional convention. And that is if the Liberian people feel the need to reform any of the sections of the Constitution. I will add, though, that a Constitution in a pure democracy is written for the people and by the people. So if the people so desire and the appropriate institutions are in place, yes, they can proceed in that direction. I will caution you, though, that Liberia does not have the institution in place, let alone will it undertake this task. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to pose that question also to Justice Janet before we go into that article. Justice, do you think there's a need for reform?
Well, when this provision was drafted first before it became part of the current constitution, part of the consideration was that people who naturalized to become Liberian citizens should not be allowed to run for the office of president or vice president. Then they added something there which they call the residency or domiciliary requirement, where they say before you run for president or vice president, you must have been domiciled in the country for 10 years preceding the election in which you want to participate as a candidate for president or vice president. Now, you may remember that in the 2011 elections in Liberia, this was a provision that some group of people came to the court invoke and say this provision will not allow Ellen Johnson, Sally, George Weah, good number of candidate of consequence to run because they were not in the country, they had not been in the country for 10 years, considering the circumstances at the time. And the Supreme Court interpreted it to say, yeah, it means you should be in the country 10 years before the election in which you want to participate in as a candidate for president or vice president. But they could also say that if the Constitution was suspended during the time of our conflict and it had just been restored as of 2006, then the counting logically will have to begin from 2006. And if you counted from 2006 to 2011 at the time, it had not matured to 10 years at the time. Therefore, the court reasoned that it was not applicable at that time. But I don't think anything is wrong with it, because why it says, basically, I think that you find in many constitutions. I don't think many constitutions today will allow you to run for the highest political office in the land if you were not born in the country. You know. So basically, I don't see much wrong with this one, frankly. I know there's question about property ownership and all that, but I think this is a good provision, frankly.
Thank you. Anthony Charles, looking at that provision, Article 52A, let me read. No person shall be eligible to hold the office of president or vice president unless that person is a natural born Liberian citizen of not less than 35 years of age. So this provision here, what is the rationale behind requiring a natural born Liberian citizen to hold office, the office of the president or vice president, and the age limit that is placed on it?
Well, look, that provision of the Constitution is consistent with provisions of other constitutions elsewhere, including these United States of America. The idea here is when you are at the age of 35, okay, maturity as far as, decision making, being able to lead and other things would have set in appropriately. So when you are at the age of 35 and you're a man or a woman, you are an adult within the sense of adulthood. So at that age, you can hold office, you can run a country, and you can lead your people. I think that's the rationale behind it. Okay, you are now a grown person, you are an adult, you can lead your country. It is the same as the United States, I would say, Great Britain, Canada, and other countries around the world, and even within the sub-region of West Africa. Now, having said that, I don't see a problem with being, required to be a natural-born citizen before you can run for the office of president of the country of your birth. Again, that's a natural occurrence across the world. Now, what countries do in these United States, you can become a naturalized citizen, but a naturalized citizen cannot contest or run to become president of the United States. You can become, about a great California governor, right? Arnold Schwarzenegger. If he were born here, I bet he would have been elected president of this country. But he came from Austria, born in the United States, became a citizen here, ran and successfully managed the affairs of the great state of California. So I don't see, a real big deal as far as that particular provision of the Constitution. As far as Liberia and constitutional provisions go, and the practice of law and all of that, really where the problem is in Liberia is this. Do we in fact have courts who can enforce these constitutional provisions? Do we in fact have lawyers with the requisite skills to actually advocate these positions? if you were to ask more people, we don't. Your guest here mentioned suspension of the Constitution up to 2006, saying that the residency clause did not apply to Johnson Sirleaf and George Weah. Okay, that is fine. A court can say that, though, but there's also another provision of the law that is significant called the Equal Protection Clause. If we can exclude that requirement for Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, George Weah, and the rest of the people, if a court says that, I'm not going to question the reasoning of the court. But the question then becomes, what's about other aspects of the same law? For example, what happens to Liberians who took citizenship outside of Liberia during the time that the Liberian Constitution was suspended? Can we say then that they voluntarily relinquished the Liberian constitutional right to birth citizenship? Those are issues that a court, again, for me, I would say a competent court. Liberia does not have a competent court. That has been my position, and constitutional analysis and discussion of constitutions and what have you with respect to Liberia, from my perspective, is merely a waste of time. We don't have those institutions.
Thank you, Anthony Charles. We're going to come back to you. I want to go to Mr. Alex Jones. He was a presidential aspirant that going elections. I want to ask about the age limitation. Is it relevant? If we have 35, what's happened to another requirement that can be a call off for when it comes to the age requirement? So, Mr. Jones, can you give your opinion on that age limitation? Mr. Jones, are you there? Mr. Jones, are you on? Or we go back to, sorry, he going off. Justice Janet, is the age requirement of 35 years still relevant in these modern times?
Yeah. Before I deal with that, let me just quickly say that every constitution has a historical context. When you look at the founding of Liberia
sorry, Justice Janet. We can hear you, Chuchu. Just hold your thoughts, and right after Justice Janet, we'll come to you.
Almost all of the people who became president of Liberia from 1847, I think up to the 13th president, they were all born outside Liberia. In fact, almost all of them were born in the United States. The requirement that you must be born in Liberia to qualify as a presidential candidate or to occupy the office of president is a novelty of the 1986 Constitution. I don't question the wisdom behind the law, and I think it's a good law. Though our Constitution basically says that, we should not discriminate against those who are naturalized, but it says to the extent of the conformity with the constitutional provision on any particular matter relevant to a particular issue. So I don't really have any problem. I think it's a fine law. Now, with 35 years, if you ask me, I would say I think it's a little too low for people who want to run for president. If we talk about maturity and acquiring experience, I would think that 35 is a little too low. But again, this is what our Constitution currently requires.
Mr. Jones, thank you, Justice. Mr. Jones, is 35 too old, or should we also have another age limitation that says when you above 80, you cannot contest the presidency?
Yeah, thank you very much for the discussion, and I've been following.
Very good discussion. Gotten all the inputs, but I think the purpose or the rationale of us being here today or to hold these discussions is because we realize that our constitution, in part or in whole, is flawed. It has not delivered this glorious land of liberty. It has not delivered economic prosperity and justice for our people in its entire existence. Whether it was the 1847 Constitution or the 1986 Constitution, the fact remains a whole bunch of people were marginalized. A whole bunch of people never received equal opportunity, equal protection under the law. So when I look at the Liberian Constitution, yes, there are some nice things in it that were copied from other nations, other states. Yes, there's a fine preamble. The first few articles are brilliant. But the reality here is it's flawed. And we are here today to say, perhaps let's start all over. Many countries in Africa, I think Ghana, Rwanda, they've rewritten the whole entire constitution. It's not uncommon, even in Europe, South America, many countries, there's a whole list of countries that got to a certain point in existence and said in recent times that will set up, our constitution is not working. So I don't, defend much in this constitution, including the age limit, including the age requirement, all that kind of stuff. We're here today to say, when that constitution was created, a 25 or 35-year-old person, okay, at that time, and a 25-year-old person today, or a 30-year-old person, there's a big difference. That's a big difference. So maybe at the time, somebody had to be 35 years old because maybe they were graduating from high school at 25 and they were going to college, finishing college at 30 before they got work experience at 35. Today, even in Liberia, the kids are graduating at 17. The kids are finishing high school and law school under 25. So should we say now because 100 years ago we did something, or because America did something, or France did something, so that means it's correct? So that's where I'm coming from, to say, when I look today, anybody who is 25 years old is an adult. You are mature enough. All the weight of the law, you are not a minor. You can start a family, you can go to war, you can start a business. So if you can do all of that. So my recommendation is 25, just the way for the representative.
So 25, okay.
And there should be a limit. 65 should be the limit.
So a 90 years can decide to contest.
65 years old should be a retirement age for all civil servants in Liberia.
Including the president.
Oh, yes. Including the president, legislator, senator, whoever. 65 years old, you should retire from government services. You can volunteer, you can teach at the law school, you can teach at the university. But as far as that, and you should be given a generous, you should be given, in fact, what they call your senior citizenship. You should be given good retirement or social security. You should work on boards of directors. You should teach. You should be an elder in the community. You should, there's so many rules. But this is a young country. So we cannot compare with America. The average age in Liberia is 19 and a half. Okay. The lifespan in Liberia, I think, is now 65 or something. So we have a different, a different demographic. We have a different socioeconomic structure. So we should start thinking from our standpoint and the current generation, instead of just reverting always to the Constitution, the way they did it and how they did it. That's what we're here for today now, to put our input and put our suggestion. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. If you are just joining us, this is Fortified City TV, and this is the Round Table, and this is all about Constitution reform, and we are discussing Article 52. If you are in Liberia, you can join us on Ablijit Radio, Liberty Radio, and the Voice of Plebo. At the same time, we want to let you know that our lines will be open for calls and your contribution at 5:45 GMT, which is Liberian time. So we back to our discussion. They talk about the property value, and they talk about dollars in that clause. So should we not be specific? Because right now in Liberia, we have the US dollar and the Liberian dollar. So do you think there should be some change when it comes to what kind of dollar they are talking about in that provision? Anthony Charles. Okay, Anthony Charles. I think we lost him. He's going to be back on the program. Oh, Justice Janet, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Should we be specific when it comes to the kind of currency?
No, but that one got nothing to do with constitution. That's basically statutory thing. The statute in Liberia says that if you are charged anything and they mention USD, you can also have the value equivalent in Liberian dollars. In fact, it is prohibited for you to refuse to accept payment in Liberian dollar in preference to, or because you prefer USD, you can't do that. So that's not a constitutional issue.
Okay, so we come back to the 10 years clause. Is it too restrictive? And if you were to suggest reduction, what would that be?
No, I don't because for the other, what is it that the law seeks to achieve? I just said to you that when the 1847 Constitution came into being, there was no requirement, for example, for someone to become president by any provision that you must be born in Liberia. There wasn't anything like that. What they had initially was you must have stayed in Liberia for 5 years, if I'm not mistaken. Then later on, when they saw a lot of people coming who were interested, then they pushed the thing up to 15 years. The last amendment that was done in the 1847 Constitution put it at 25 years. That's all we had there. But when the 1986 Constitution was drafted I think 1984 or 85, then they put this requirement, I think borrowing the concept from the United States, I guess. Because almost everything we want to do in this country, we try to look at American example. So basically, that's the way it's been since 1986.
Thank you, Justice. Anthony Charles, do you want to make a comment on the residency clause? Anthony Charles. Mr. Jones.
Yeah, I will leave that part with our legal scholar, Justice Janet. I think he's one of the most brilliant, person on our Constitution. I read it. I think there should be some residency, and whether or not what does the residency mean? Because that's a whole new kind of word. If somebody just go to Liberia once every 10 years and spend 1 hour there, is that meeting the residency clause? If somebody buys a property there, but they don't go there for 10 years, so it's a very tricky thing. Because in some country, I know they have other stipulation. You must stay there for 6 months while you're there before you can consider to become a resident per year. So there should be some my recommendation or my policy was that every Liberian, regardless of whether or not you live in Liberia, you live wherever, that you should obtain residency within a county or in a district. And that should be your financial obligation every year. So once you pay your taxes to that district, you are considered a resident of that district, and thereby you met your residency clause. Because one of the things I noticed in the Constitution is that it focuses all on politics. You know, the requirement of becoming president, legislator, but it has very little in terms of the economic viability of the state. There is no requirement in terms of, all right, the essence of the Constitution, the essence of creating a nation is create wealth for its people. Adam Smith, the wealth of a nation. So most countries today, even in the United States, if you just have $1 million, you can get green card for anywhere in the world. In most countries now are opening the borders where they can give you a passport if you just make a certain amount of a deposit in one of the banks. That's a whole list of countries. You don't even have to go there. So countries are looking at, okay, what can we put in our constitution in order to be economically competitive? Because if you don't have money,
Mr. Jones, you were an aspirant this going elections, and later on you dropped along the way. Was this clause something that hindered your progress?
oh, absolutely not. Basically,
Because
most of the candidates.
for I don't know how many years. So
No,
this
it was
clause,
not. It was not a hindrance because we would have challenged it in at the court, because almost all the candidates never met the residency clause. Like I said, we looked into it and we had a strong case. So, I don't think Cummings met the residency clause both in 2017 and 2023 because he went there 2015. So I think my understanding was the election commission, because of the war, okay, because most people left the country involuntarily, including myself. There are people who left the country because of asylum. So that was never an issue in my decision to not go for my candidacy. No, we had a strong case to make. I've been more involved in Liberia, more invested in Liberia than people who live there.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Jones. Anthony Charles, the property clause. So does this mean that it favors the rich, and it restricts those who are not, they have the knowledge, they have the education, they have the capacity to leadership ability, but when it comes to the financial aspect, they are just not qualified. Does this mean that this clause is biased? Anthony Charles, are you there? I can't. Okay, we'll go back to Justice Johnny. Justice Johnny, does this clause only favor the rich?
Well, just before attempting to answer that, let me just say quickly that the brother there, he had been following the, development in the interpretation of our law. I think he will appreciate the fact that the Supreme Court has already interpreted what this domiciliary requirement is. When will you be considered as domicile in Liberia? I think the court spoke to that. The court also took into account in suggesting application of this law, all of the things that happened that made people not to be in Liberia, because the court said, look, the first thing any state is supposed to do is to protect its citizens, protect life and property. If the state reached a point where that was almost an impossibility, you cannot just out of the blues talk about enforcement of the residency clause. And it was based on that the court said, well, from the time peace was restored to Liberia, people started coming back. let's start from when we all agreed to have a constitutional order. And the court said that was January 9, 2006. And then the counting started from there. And I think that's how it happened. Now, I don't think there's sufficiently good reason to bar people from participating in public elections on ground that perhaps like somebody was suggesting when they reach 65 years or 70 years. I don't think so. I think those are things that should be left with the electorate. If the electorate feel that you should be allowed to contest, so be it. You know, this thing, because whatever way you want to look at it, leaving it with the general public is what we have all advocated for. That's what we say, we call it democracy. That's why generally in most constitutions, you will hardly find any time that we call retirement age for people who want to run in public elections. Those are things that are left to the will and caprice of the electorate. If you were to ask me about liberality when it comes to this thing, I would say rather than making the 18 years as the age for being qualified to register to vote, I will add something else.
What will you add?
For example, education.
Okay.
Yeah, I will add.
That means you're gonna say they should have certain qualification when it comes to education.
I would think so, frankly. But again, these are universally hugely contested issues, and there are many considerations. So sometimes people take the easy way and say, look, once you reach 18 years, allow everybody to vote. I don't know whether you follow the elections or the proposed election at the time when Dr. Sawyer was running for the mayoral seat. Of course, that election was never held, but those were some of the issues that were being discussed. Because at the time, though it was on the books that if you want to run for public office, you must have certain amount of money or property. There was similar requirement for voters, and almost 90% of those who were actually involved were people who didn't have that. So President Toro at the time thought to relax the law to allow a lot of people. Unfortunately, the country was overtaken by a lot of events, and then those elections were never held.
Thank you. Our lines.
I would say instead of age, it should be in addition to a certain sort of enlightenment, some sort of education.
Okay, thank you, Justice. Our lines are open, and the Voice of Plebo, you can call us on 0776-697767, Ablige 08811667310, 0775-734-774, plus 19522019287 on WhatsApp. Liberty 0770777572, 0888669430. Those are the lines. Those are the lines you need to call and then make your contribution. So as we continue, yes, we'll be taking our callers, and we want to welcome Attorney Charles back on the platform. Attorney Charles, can you hear me? Yeah. Is there any comment you want to make as it concerns the age limitation?
I read it to not
Line's not bad.
If I may, Pastor Patient.
Go ahead.
Okay, let me just engage the honorable judge, associate judge, yeah, justice here, because you don't get an opportunity to speak to quite a wide legal mind every day. One issue that I have a problem with in the Constitution is the fact that judges are appointed, and I know the first response will be they do it in America. Most times we find a miscarriage of justice in Liberia simply because the judges are compromised for political reason. They are
Hold on, Mr. Jones. We got a caller on the line. Hello, what's your name and where you coming from?
Hello, I am Kwame, phoning from the United States. Thank you very much for this discussion today on Article 52. I want to say thanks to the panelists for their insights. But I think I have a few questions, and I hope they can respond to that. One has to do with the B part of this Article 52. I want to know this $25,000. Are they talking about US dollar or Liberian currency? That's my first question. My second will have to do with the issue of the 10 years prior to the election. If for any reason it was being relaxed because maybe of the war, now we have gone about more than 2 decades after the war. Now, why are we still relaxing on this? Because if we look at the past 2023 presidential elections, most of the candidates did not actually meet that criteria. So I want to know whether it still be relaxed or does it undermine the rule of law?
Thank you. Justice Jane, you want to respond to that, please?
Well, I don't know to whom specifically he's talking about. And I also want to remind him that under the practice of law, it is only when people raise issues before the court that those issues can be dealt with. Take, for example, there was one time someone was contesting in Ma County, Nimba County, one of the districts for a representative position. And someone in the district raised the issue as to whether he had been domiciled in the district for the time required under the Constitution. And that matter was taken all the way to the Supreme Court. So if nobody raised any issue, then nobody will say anything. But I think that all the requirements that are set forth in the Constitution as qualification requirement for the office of president or for senator or member of the House, they are all supposed to be strictly adhered to.
Thank you.
Strictly adhered to.
Thank you. Our lines are open, and our callers, you can call in. The question here to our callers is, what do you make of the 10 years residency clause? What do you make of that? So join us, make your contribution. While you are away, Anthony Charles, we want to get your opinion on
well, there are a couple of things that I like, couple of observations that I like to make here. Okay, the one thing that is consistent with us Liberians is that we love to waste time on mundane and unimportant issues. Okay. The issue, one of the
the panelists and good evening to everyone on the sound of my voice. My name is Newton Jai, and I do join you from Zone 11 here in Ibo, River County, Liberia.
Okay.
My question has related to the Constitution Article 52. I want to talk about so many clauses actually are seen less important and need to be subtracted. I also want to, if I have the opportunity during the reform of the Constitution, I would love to recommend some clauses. One, for the president to have certain degree before partaking in the general election.
Okay.
Two, the law talks about one should reside in the country for no less than 10 years. I see it to be less significant. I don't see it to be a kind of very important clause.
Okay.
Yeah, so I would love to recommend that clause should be subtracted. And then the one that I talked about, the president, for Shane County to run for the presidency and the vice presidency, I support that 100%. It cannot be. And then the clause also that talk about the property, you have certain property, I think amounted to 25,000, but the amount is not specified, whether in Liberian dollar or in United States dollar. So I want any of the panelists will need to respond to this concern. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Anthony Charles, you want to respond to him?
Well, look. What I was saying is this: I admired the caller. I admired everything everybody has said. Let us assume that all of the constitutional suggestions and recommendations here are incorporated into the Liberian Constitution, right? What will surface is this, and this is the most quintessential issue that I think we as Liberians should deal with. Okay, constitutions are not interpreted by animals. They are not interpreted by pigs, dogs, and what have you. Right? Constitution is interpreted by judges with requisite training. They must meet what I would refer to as the character test for being a judge. And we must have a court that is competent. I think this is a good discussion. I'm happy you invited me, but I would rather have us Liberians focus on creating legal institutions that can interpret the laws that we have on the book. Legal institution that is actually educated. Legal institution that can actually interpret the law and is held accountable. Now, I don't believe in foreign aid. A lot of people in Africa believe in it. But if I were to seek one foreign aid for Liberia, it would be assistance with the judiciary, where people help us to actually find judges who meet the character test, who can interpret our law, who actually possess the requisite training and skills. Mr. Jones mentioned that the court system is whatever because of political interest. I disagree with him. It's not political interest, okay? The court system is corrupt because judges are greedy. People have self-serving interests. I practice law in the United States. There's something called, the rules of professional responsibility. It prohibits lawyers from doing XYZ things. When you do that, you are held accountable. Those same provisions are within Liberia, but they are not enforced. That's where we need to focus. If I had the power to run anything in Liberia, I would be asking for judicial trusteeship. I will actually seek help for foreigners to help us with our Supreme Court, because we don't have Supreme Court. We have
Anthony Charles. The judicial system in Liberia will get so annoyed when they hear you talking and
I don't care. I'm a Liberian, and the rights of Liberian citizens is important.
Just a channel.
Okay.
Can you respond to Anthony Charles?
Say that again.
I said, can you respond to him?
Well, I don't. He hasn't said anything for me to respond to.
Okay, can I just put a little input to what Anthony Charles and Justice Janet is saying?
Okay.
First of all, I don't believe that if we're not responsible and we don't have good, intelligent people in Liberia that can amend the laws, interpret the laws, judge cases, then we shouldn't be a state. We should just come under trusteeship. Part of setting up a nation means that you are mature enough to create your legal system and manage your legal system. This thing here, we're always asking other countries to come fix our legal system, fix our economy, fix our this. You know, to me, it's ridiculous. We have people in that country, such as yourself, such as Justice Janet, who are very ethical, they are very knowledgeable. But what has been in the way? Politics. This government or other government should have set up a committee a long time ago where you find the brightest legal minds. Let them sit down, compensate them very well, retired judges, current judges, right? You can bring international consultants, but let them look at the Constitution and see if it works for the Liberian people. But we shouldn't be dependent on America to come fix our law school. America to come tell us what to do, to copy American law. So we should copy the gay rights thing for America too. Because when they come down, what they're going to tell you. So what I'm saying here is I have total confidence in the scholars and the goodwill and the good people in Liberia. Not all Liberian judges and even politicians are corrupt or don't have the country at heart. The country is just being hijacked by a few criminals, what are used to subvert power for riches.
Thank you. Anthony Charles made mention of judicial trusteeship. That was the reason why I wanted Justice Janet to respond to that. Is there a need for that?
No.
You know, I have not reached such a conclusion. I believe that there's a need to look at our laws and also provide a system that will allow hiring of people, appointment in government, whether it's based on competence and merit, basically. Now, I don't think we reached there yet. There are many times where sometimes some of the appointments can be, far less than desirable. So I agree with my brother who just spoke a few minutes ago that we just need to be serious about our country and do those things that we need to do. You know, every time we change government in this country, after a lot of struggle, oftentimes the government you remove and the one you bring in, sometimes the one you remove, you say, I want to listen to, you know. So we have all those kinds of issues. So, but I think we need to just work as Liberians on these issues to bring people to come and see it. You know, there's people who say, don't appoint judges, elect them. You have both in America. What does it mean? Whether you elect them, you appoint them, it becomes an issue of character, upbringing. Right. So we need to look at all of those. So there are many things that one can look at to say, get the best and put them in these very critical positions.
Thank you, Justice. We want to be taking our closing comment. We want to start with Charles.
Okay. There are a couple of observations that I like to make. First of all, Alex Jones, you don't understand what I'm talking about, okay? You, in your myopic conception of what I'm alluding to, you've jumped the conclusion that judicial trusteeship means they should bring American and white people. I have not told you that. Liberian legal issue is a institutional defect that needs to be corrected. A judicial trusteeship can have a credible Liberian serving as the trustee. There are elements in the proposal that take away the corruption that is in Liberia away from that person and put it in the domain where that person's salaries, his functionality, and other things are not decided by the Liberian judiciary. That's one point I will make. The second point I will make is that even the very Kabina Jane that speaks, when he was impeached, Dennis Jar begged me to appear on his show. I told him I wasn't coming there. The issue of discussion was the impeachment of Kabina Janet. And who was in it was Senator, how you call his name, from Bapolu County. They just defeated him. He came there to defend the Senate's action. I said Kabina Janet was not impeached. To impeach somebody, you have to have an institution. I observed the process as a practicing attorney. The institution did not exist to impeach Kabina Janet. Therefore, my conclusion was that politically, he was witch hunted. Okay? That's the second observation that I want to make. Now, the Kabina Jane himself, the decisions that he participated in, that the rules of ethics would have barred him from participating in had it been in any other country. Okay, let's stop kidding here. The issue is not whether Liberians are educated or not. They're educated Liberian lawyers. The system is defective. So what I'm saying is, to take that defect away, we should ask for a trusteeship, that Liberians be the trustee and custodian of the process to help transform our judiciary. It is a national disgrace. Our judges are corrupt. The decisions do not reflect the facts that are happening in the courtroom. Let's face the facts.
Thank you.
Kabina Jane should not participate in some of the decisions that he participated in. And I can name them. I will level with him and tell him the truth as a lawyer.
For time's sake, we will stop there. Choo Jones, you want to give your closing remarks?
You know, every time the conversation is getting to the interesting part, we end up going. But I like this kind of intellectual exchanges. You know, Councilor Charles, you know, I always like people who I disagree with and people who disagree with me. You know, I welcome it. But I would believe, again, this is not my era expertise. So please forgive me if I'm ignorant to certain things. It just means I'm not a lawyer. The only little knowledge I have is maybe a little bit of business law. But I would say to you, we have a bar association. Okay? And I think that trusteeship that you're talking about, all right, it can be implemented right through the bar association. The only thing I disagree with the fact that we are country of 177 years. We are not babies. We help create other African countries independent. We cannot keep relying on particularly America help us fix our justice system, fix our economy, or fix our this. Can't teach us. Today, any information you want to know on law, any law library you want to access, any knowledge you want to get is free of charge. You can go to any law school online. You can access how the Constitution is created. You can set up some fine legal scholars together, and they can address the problem of corruption. But when you have a leadership of the country, the way our Constitution is structured, where it gives too much power to the presidency, where if the president does not like you, he does not appoint you, whether or not you are capable or not. If you don't work for a party, right, you will never get a political appointment in our country. That is a problem that I have.
Thank you.
And I'm saying here, just the way I know people go back to refer to America. In America, the state judges are elected. Only the federal judges are appointed. I like that model where if a judge knows that he's going to face election, right, I think he will be much more responsible and he will not be beholden to his political interest of appointment. Maybe that's something that we can adapt in Liberia. Let all judges, one, be certified by the Bar Association. All legal appointments, Minister of Justice or whatever, must be approved by the Bar Association, which is an independent or should be an independent, and let judges be elected.
Thank you.
Period.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. Thank you. Justice, comments?
Well, I wish my brother, the Learned Council there, could speak maybe to few of the things that should not have participated in the cases concerned, as he mentioned. But I want to tell him that the way I understand the trustee thing, trusteeship, is basically where you basically give certain authority to an institution or body outside your own rules, and gave them it almost like giving part of your sovereignty to a foreign power. I don't think that's where we want to go now as a country. I believe there's need for judicial reform. I also believe we need to look at some of the examples we have in countries, especially in Africa, where judges are selected through some very vigorous processes, and everything is now left to the desire of the president. Because this whole thing, part of the thing that's supposed to be the check on appointment of judges could be, say, through the legislative process. But normally the confirmation of people in the country are generally, they all become nothing but political consideration.
I know.
Yeah, so basically that's where we are, unfortunately.
Thank you so much, Justice Johnny. And we want to say this is how we come to the close of our discussion for today. We will be here on Tuesday with another edition of the roundtable, and we will look at another provisions in the Liberian Constitution. Well, you can also continue to send us your messages, your texts, your emails, and we will respond at the appropriate time. And next Tuesday promised to be another mind-blowing and very, very interesting discussion. So please make it a date with the roundtable. We will be having our legal counselors here, or legal minds here again on the roundtable, and I believe they're going to give you the education that you need. This program is all about talking about the reform that needs to take place as it concerns our Constitution. There are provisions in our Constitution that needs to be changed. Time have passed and things have happened. The world is moving on. We, Liberia, need to move on as well. And there are things that if we want to talk about transparency, accountability, and all the other things that we need to move the nation forward, then indeed we need to look at the Constitution that gives our president so much power, give the legislature and even the judiciary so much, power to operate. We're all being accountable. So I will be looking forward to, your comments and your questions. And of course, our legal experts will be here to handle that. Thank you for joining us on the roundtable. And I'm your host, Pastor Patience, and I'm look forward to seeing you on Tuesday. Have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your day. I want to say thank you to our panelists again, and I want to say thank you to our journalists out there that relay our programs on the different platforms, different radio stations. Thank you, Ablige Radio, Liberty Radio, Voice of Plebo, and everyone that is there, making sure that the voices of our panelists are heard. And we want to tell you that there's more to come, because we want to ensure that...
I'm ready to get them. Yeah. Thank you, sir.
We want to ensure that the population know what is in the Constitution as it concerns them, because this is all about Liberians, and it's all about the betterment of the nation. So God bless you. Thank you so much, and look forward to seeing you on Tuesday. Have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your day.
Thank you.